Hi folks, welcome to PP Learning. In this video, you're going to learn about built-in functional interfaces in Java 8. You know the definition of a functional interface. Let us review it again. When an interface got one and only one abstract method that can be called as functional interface. A functional interface can have any number of default and static methods. You can annotate an interface with @functional interface to make sure that is a functional interface, which means it got one and only one abstract method. Mentioning of @functional interface is optional. However, if you mention an interface with @functional interface, it will help you to avoid accidental adding of additional abstract methods. Functional interface has a single functionality to exhibit. Functional interfaces are candidates for lambda expressions. Functional interfaces are widely used in Stream API. Java 8 was released with many built-in functional interfaces. Those functional interfaces will help you to write lambda expressions without creating your own custom interfaces. Built-in functional interfaces suffice for majority of the day-to-day scenarios. There is a beautiful documentation provided by Oracle along with Java 8 software. We can categorize functional interfaces as three types. First one is custom functional interface. When we create an interface according to the functional interface standard, we can call it as custom functional interface. Existing interfaces. There are few interfaces which got one and only one abstract method. Those are useful as functional interfaces. Few of them are runnable, callable, comparable, action listener, etc. Third type of functional interfaces are built-in functional interfaces released as part of Java 8 in a package named java.util.function. Let us review the functional interfaces documentation. I have opened a web browser with functional interfaces URL. I have provided this URL as part of video description. Before understanding this documentation, let me show you the classification of these functional interfaces made by me to help you understand the concepts better. So, the first one is core interfaces. In this one, I have segregated the core interfaces of four. Those are function, consumer, supplier, and predicate. If you look after this slide, functional interface has a method called apply, which will take one input parameter and return the output. In the function, this TR stands for T is the first one is a parameter type, R is return. Ideally, it is using generics. So, throughout this documentation, you have something called generics and specifics. Wherever you see T, R, U, these are the symbols used in the generics. You should be having a little bit understanding about generics in Java. Second one is consumer. Consumer will take an input and doesn't return anything. So you can understand from the name itself, consumer, it consumes it but doesn't return anything. Third one, supplier. Supplier got a method called get, which does not take any parameter but return value. And the last one, which is little special compared to others, it is named as predicate. Predicate will take input and return the output as Boolean. the method used for predicate is test. If you see here, in all of these 4 core interfaces, it will take one and only one parameter. Here, B in the bracket stands for Boolean return type. Next, you have 2 more special functional interfaces called unary operator and binary operator. Unary operator is similar to function, however, the input parameter and the return type are same. So here in the unary operator, let's say in the t, if I pass an integer, so the method will accept integer parameter and the return type will be integer. Whereas binary operator is exactly same as unary operator, but bi stands for 2, which will take 2 parameters and return one value. So both the input parameter type and the return type are same. Unary operator is similar to function. The difference is input and return type is same. Unary operator extends from function, whereas binary operator also extends from function. Next, here all of 2 parameters passing to the function. We call it as bi. Bi stands for binary. Now bi function, where it will take 2 input and return output, whereas bi consumer will take 2 parameters, doesn't return anything. Bi predicate takes 2 parameter and return the output as Boolean. There is nothing called bi supplier, as supplier does not take any of the input but returns a value. Anywhere when you see 2 tick boxes, those are 2 parameters. Next, here these are the mixed built-in functional interfaces I have taken randomly. The first one is toInt function. So ideally, if you understand a function will take a parameter and return a value. So here toInt function means the function can take any type of parameter, but the return type will be integer. Second one, object double consumer. Here you can understand that consumer consumes the value, doesn't return anything, but it can take 2 parameters. One is object, that means any type, and the second parameter should be double. That's where you can say it as object double consumer. Third one, long supplier. Supplier does not take any input but return a output. When you see here as long supplier, the supplier is returning the long type. Double predicate. Here predicate is used to test the functionality. So in the double predicate, it will take input as double but return Boolean value. So let's review the documentation. In the documentation, you have got very clear description for each and every functional interface. If you see here by consumer, it represents an operation that accepts 2 input arguments and return no result. Consumer doesn't return anything. Then Boolean supplier represents a supplier of Boolean value result. Now function represents a function that accepts 1 argument and produce a result. Int to double function. Here, if we see here, it is not using any generics. We can call it as a specific. Here the input type is integer and return type is double. represents a function that accepts an int valued argument and produces a double valued result. Long consumer, here also it is specific, represents an operation that accepts a single long valued argument and returns no results because consumer consumes and doesn't return any value. So you have to remember these 4 core interfaces. This is where is combined with other values. So function will take a parameter and return a value. Consumer will accept a parameter, doesn't return anything. Supplier doesn't take an input parameter but returns a value. Predicate will take an input parameter but returns Boolean. Thanks for watching.